let's try to refocus the discussion. Mine is that Time magazine observed a lot of people waiting to hear some lecturers that you weren't, to use your own word, staggering. Or was that their word?
Their word was that I was staggering. My
word.
word, and I give it to you in confidence, was that I was not.
Okay, that you're not. Okay. But you're...
I was bobbing and weaving, but I always do that in public. I mean, I'm doing it right now, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you...
Who knows where the next question is coming from, you know.
Yeah. But what... I think really that it's worthwhile, rather than to ask, you know, just how sober were you, to ask why was the fact of your drinking and the fact of your behaving noticeably, which resulted in news stories in Time magazine and lots of whisperings around the country, why is that a part of the experience as it relates to the moral of this book? Because the book does have a moral, doesn't it?
Well, I could answer that. I could answer you for 5 minutes. Let me try to take 2. To begin with, one of the reasons, let's say one of the conscious, purposeful reasons I was out there drinking, anytime a man gets drunk, he can't state to a certainty that he got drunk for a political reason, or a philosophical reason, or a spiritual reason. He may have gotten drunk because he had to get drunk because he was upset about something.
Yeah.
You see, there's always that doubt implicit in it. So I'm going to say that so far as I know my reasons for getting drunk that night, and so far as they had a point, one of the points is that I've always found the left to be as stuffy as the right. In other words, the extreme left is about as boring as the extreme right. And I think both suffer terribly from this. And I just wanted to show them that there's a certain sort of, there's a cult of propriety about speaking in public. And this cult insists that the speaker always be completely sober, whereas we know for a fact that most speakers, when they get up to speak, particularly at banquets and so forth, they're often dead drunk. It's just they've found a way of doing it where they become...
You sound like Time magazine. They're not dead drunk, they couldn't speak.
Right, thank you. I'm glad you've learned the fine point that I made earlier.
I learned fast.
Yes, you do. You really do discriminate. The notion I wanted just to get across was that these people get up there, I mean, any number of famous poets, authors, politicians, and so forth, who really go maundering after a little spit, if I may quote myself for a phrase. They're up there and they're desperate to think of the next phrase because they're sodden with liquor. But they take a sensen before they go on, and they sip a lot of water, and they speak slowly, and they say nothing, and they're dully applauded, and they go home. They don't create a disturbance.
Why are they asked back? Why are they asked back?
Because they have a name, because people forget, and because they're not trouble, which is also important. I mean, sometimes you're asked back because you're trouble, and sometimes you're asked back because you're not trouble. Depends on the little institution that's inviting you. At any rate, I just wanted to get up there and just show them man could be drunk and make no pretensions about it and have a marvelous time. There's also a literary tradition about a literary figure, so-called or legitimate, getting up in public, drunk, and having a good time. Some of the brightest things ever said are said when you're drunk because the devil is with you then. You know that as a good Catholic. And Brenton Behan, for instance, I mean, the poor man drank himself to death, but he was fabulous in public upon occasion when he was drunk, better than when he was sober. So I thought I was working within a good, firm tradition, and I wanted to start on the left. I wanted to get the troops fired up. I wanted to give them a few laughs, and I wanted to say a great many things. I also was appalled, you see, by the general air of the occasion. There was a pall that hung over the left because they were in terror before this thing. It was an extraordinary move. People on the left are more law-abiding than anybody else. That's why they're on the left. They have...
Explain that, would you?
I'd be happy to. It's exactly because their lives are so middle class and full of propriety that their political ideas become more and more powerful. I mean, you very rarely find a leftist who's the kind of guy who goes out in the bar and gets drunk every night and gets a couple of bar brawls. They're always somewhere comfortably between the center and the right. 9 out of 10. I know that much of your support when you ran for mayor came from fellows like that, because I used to run into them often. Mayor, what do you got against Buckley?
Yeah. Well, that was just proper enthusiasm, or something.
I never resented it. I said if I didn't have an idea in my head, I'd be for it myself. I used to say that.
You always find just the right word.
Okay.
Your point is that the political left takes its politics so seriously that it understands the necessity for abiding by the law?
No, sir.
No?
No, I was talking about emotional matters. I was saying that the left generally... There's an old joke on the left that... which is, the dentist yet on the barricades. There's something about a proper life that tends to make one a little more radical in one's opinions. And I've always felt this has been the disease of the left. You see, just as the disease of the right is greed, bigotry, insensitivity, and general stupidity, so the disease of the left, yourself excluded, sir, sure, I assure you that. So the disease of the left has always been excessive propriety in family life, excessive obedience to all the small laws of daily life, such as not you're always crossing at the corners. You'll find that many more communists and Trotskyists and people like that will cross at the corner, you see, than Minutemen or FBI men, you know.
Well, that's because they want to save themselves as lawbreakers for major occasions, isn't it?
Well, I don't. They may say that to themselves, but I think the real reason is that they think of overturning society because they do not know how to break a few small rules and laws. Now, I, as a existential leftist, as a left conservative, have often felt that what the left needed was a great deal of waking up. Now, of course, I always consider myself ridiculous because I'm always seeing myself as either larger or smaller than I am. You know, and on this occasion, I saw myself as larger than I am. And so I thought that I could do it, that I could engage in some sort of Herculean activity, you see, lift this entire left movement up on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Absolute madness, narcissism, if you will. Of course, what happens is that when you go in for such extraordinary narcissism, you know, it's like a great house cleaning, a spiritual house cleaning. The next day I was full of contrition.
Yeah.
I felt very modest. I suddenly realized these were terribly serious matters, and that finally a man could not only go to jail for a couple of days, but if the country kept going the way it was going, if the war in Vietnam continued, that I, this great lifter of the left, was finally probably going to end up just a mean little convict like any other, having to be in jail for a year or 2 or 5, because finally I realized I'd become so opposed to this war that I was ready, on a full hangover even, to go to jail as a protest against this war. That was very chastening. Those were the first 2 days of the. I remember I said it would take a few minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Those are the first 2 days of the.
Before you go on, though, I would like to ask you this. You say that you had been ready to go to jail for a couple of days. But,
no, I'm not making myself
for 4 or
clear.
5 days or whatever.
Oh, yes, yes.
Because of the opposition to the war. But is there a point at which you would have considered that you would not have been prepared to disobey the law? That is to say, if the penalty was
life imprisonment.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Well, I think
1
obviously.
second, no,
yeah.
excuse me. I'm interested in the answer to that question because people are groping for means of causing people to abide by the law. And some people, myself for instance, are about ready to believe that some of the punishments for breaking the law are probably too trivial. So is there a certain point at which you would have been deterred? For instance, Dwight MacDonald made it very clear on this program a while ago that he really didn't want to go to jail.
No, I don't either. Who wants to go to jail?
Well, some people would love it.
Well, a few
I'm sure
do.
that Eamon Hennessy
A few do.
never happy outside.
But I can't say that I'm one of them, no.
Yeah,
No, I'm too much of a pleasure lover to even dream of enjoying jail.
yeah.
But in answer to your question, let's say if the penalty had been life imprisonment,
To take an extreme.
well, I don't know, but you know what I would have done? I would have been forced to go underground, you see, or leave the country, or turn into an enemy of the country.
Well, aren't
which
you,
is-
in one sense, an enemy of the country?
No, sir, not yet. Not yet.
Not, what do you mean, not yet?
Well, I mean, I still believe that this country is a marvelous country, and that one fights within this country. If one's completely wiped off the board, in other words, if you really have no way to fight for your ideas any longer in this country, then you have to decide one of two things, which is either one, your ideas are wrong, or two, the country is wrong.
Correct. But we have, for instance, Mr. Gore Vidal, who says that unless we elect an anti-Vietnam War president in November of 1968, he will renounce his citizenship. His reasoning is that if, in fact, the American people ratify a war that he considers so detestable, then he will become finally convinced that the American people are not